fuck that old man behind me was fucking looking at? Am I allowed to be here? It's a free country. Am I allowed to be here? Yeah, I'm allowed to get gas here. Fucking people in Napa, they don't like people who are not, who don't. Yeah, people from outside Napa, they don't like it for some reason. Just a bunch of, yeah. I don't play games. I don't play games.
Real time. I do this with my daughters all the time.
Suck
and
my.
As you're,
yeah, that's all I care. Suck it.
The query
Napa.
as
Fuck.
you enter the system, it's really cool. My goal for the Meta AI launch, which it's only really a few months old at this point, was to, by the end of the year, have Meta AI be the most used AI assistant in the world. And I think we're basically on track for that. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of people who are
by the end of this year.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be there before the end of the year.
That's Mark Zuckerberg with Emily Chang on the circuit, a Bloomberg original series that goes behind the scenes with founders, executives, and innovators. Emily, I have to tell you, the Mark Zuckerberg that we just heard in that clip, he sounds different than the Mark Zuckerberg we've heard on stage at the developers conference, that we've heard in other interviews. He sounded so much more relaxed.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that question that you saw me ask about being the unlikely champion was basically the first or maybe the second question in the interview, and just the fact that he kind of laughed and pushed back a little, but then acknowledged that he understood. I just thought it was such a great moment. You know, he was a lot more direct at the interview than I've seen him before. I mean, and look, this is still his strategy is highly scrutinized. He's still one of the most scrutinized people, and Meta is one of the most scrutinized companies in the world, and they deserve that scrutiny because they are hugely influential. It just seems like he's really grown into this role, and I'm glad that he's now showing a bit of that side of himself to us, so that we can better understand how he thinks and how he leads, and then we can judge for ourselves.
Well, speaking of influence and showing himself, on a day where we've been focused on Kamala Harris, her first campaign rally, we were just covering it moments ago, you did talk politics with Mark Zuckerberg.
We did, and he said more than I expected that he would say. He, first obviously talked about Facebook's role in elections, and one of the things that they're doing at Facebook is trying to recommend less political content in feeds. He said the number one thing I hear from people is that they don't want to see political content, and we're listening to that. So I think Facebook will be playing less of a role in the election going forward. But of course, he went on to talk about Donald Trump and the appeal that Trump has. He did not endorse either candidate, by the way, but he did say that he found former President Trump's response to be a fascination, that famous picture, and there's something you fit, that we all now know so well. He thought that was pretty inspiring. In fact, he used the word badass to describe Trump's reaction to the assassination attempt, and he was like, I can see why people like the guy. It's a crazy time in America, and the role that I want to play is help letting people express themselves, but in a safe and healthy way, and we're going to try to evolve the platform to make that happen.
Well, incredible stuff. Another incredible episode and interview. Emily, thanks so much. So glad we could catch up with you. You can watch The Circuit with Emily Chang at 6:30 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Television, also streaming at 8:30 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Originals. Emily, of course, is the host and executive producer of The Circuit from Bloomberg Originals.
Okay, from one mega cap tech company to another, and that would be Alphabet, the parent company of Google. It reports earnings after the bell today. It is expected to see a sales boost from its cloud unit and recovery in core services and with the private investment in the cloud on the radar of Google. Cybersecurity startup Wiz has turned down a takeover bid of as much as $23 billion from Google, taking a step at the plan for an IPO. This is Dana Woolman's world. She's Bloomberg News senior tech editor. She joins us here in the Bloomberg Interactive Program studio. I love Wiz because it's a company that, unless you work in cybersecurity, you've literally never heard of it before.
It also didn't exist 5 years ago.
Right, but $23 billion would have been Alphabet's biggest deal for a startup. What happened?
So these talks were reported even weeks ago. They seem to have been going on for a long time. Our understanding from our reporting is that the talks had actually already reached an advanced stage. And it seems like
companies like Wiz, not just cybersecurity companies, but companies that take a not so invasive approach to protecting company assets. That was number one. And two, I think one or possibly both companies were spooked by the possibility or even likelihood that had Google and Wiz gone through with this arrangement, the regulatory scrutiny would have been so intense and so prolonged, and the deal might not have even been approved in the end.
Does Alphabet, Google need this company or some type of company like this?
It would certainly help them, and I think it's why. Well, I think it's important for listeners to know that although they've surely heard of Google's cloud products, many of us use the consumer version, Gmail. Google is in fact, and it's hard to believe, but Google is somewhat of an underdog in the cloud space, at least compared to Amazon and Microsoft. And I think one of the things that makes this product a little weaker than the competition is its cybersecurity offering. And this would have really helped round out its portfolio. Was a huge acquisition. That was around $5.5 billion, and that obviously isn't a number anywhere approaching $23 billion. And so that was a good start for Google. But this would have fleshed out and rounded out the company's cybersecurity offerings.
There are deals that would have been needle, right? And that would have been, it sounds like, one that would have kind of tipped it over.
It certainly would have helped Google reach parity. And Google, I think, was marching in the right direction anyway. I believe that its cloud division became profitable last year.
30 seconds, we hear from Alphabet after the bell today. What has the analyst community said about this deal not happening versus happening? Like, what's the commentary that our investing audience needs to understand?
We have seen some commentary. I don't want to speak for all analysts. We have seen some that have noted the timing proximate to the CrowdStrike collapse. Making a similar point that it really underscores the importance of security products, especially ones like this that aren't necessarily embedded in an operating system on companies' devices.
We'll see what they have to say to you on the call. Like I said, I'm sure this kind of stuff's going to come up, right? Like, no doubt about it.
If I were an analyst, maybe a little later, but if I were an analyst, that's a question I'd ask about for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Dana, thank you so much. Really appreciate you jumping in. But thanks to Bloomberg News Senior Editor of Technology, Dana Woolman. Hey, coming up next, AI supposed to make our life easier?
Yeah, supposed to. A new survey out that's actually making work harder and contributing to burnout. That's next on Business Week. In case you missed it, our latest Business Week podcast features New York Times correspondent Nick Corasaniti on his new book, I Don't Want to Go Home, The Oral History of the Stone Pony. Download it now at Bloomberg.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Take your Bloomberg radio listening experience to the next level. Download the Bloomberg Business app today. Live radio, podcasts, and hourly news updates no matter where you are in the Bay Area and up and down the West Coast. Plus, expanded details and your favorite shows at the click of a button. Bloomberg Business app, now with a car plan Android Auto feature. Download it free in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. Bloomberg Radio. Context changes everything.
Sorry, but we actually have a wait list for our Monstera.
Scott's Greenhouse is really bringing in the green.
We can't keep making this stuff.
She needs a construction manager to build on her roots and grow.
We got a whole section for ferns. And here we have dahlias, and more dahlias.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need to leave.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75, which is for sponsored jobs. Terms and conditions apply.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
When was the last time I took a road trip? How many national parks could I hit in 2 weeks? What about hotels? Wait, hey Erica, how much am I spending on travel?
When your questions about life turn into questions about money, there's Erica, the virtual financial assistant to help you spend, save, and plan smarter. Only from Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America and a member FDIC. Whether you're an email counsel or in private practice, Bloomberg Law gives you the edge with the latest in AI-powered legal analytics, business insights, and workflow tools. With guidance from our experts, you'll grasp the latest trends in the legal industry, helping you achieve better results. For the practice of law, the business of law, the future of law, the difference is Bloomberg Law. Learn more at BloombergLaw.com.
Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 960.
It'll be mostly sunny for much of the Bay Area during this afternoon, with high temperatures reaching 80 to 90 by the Bay and 105 inland. Tonight, clear skies and 50s overnight near the North Bay, 60s elsewhere. Tomorrow and again on Thursday, partly to mostly sunny skies, low to mid 80s for the Bay Area and 90 to 100 further inland. This is Gary Beck with the 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 960.
Did you know Bloomberg 960 is on Amazon Alexa? Get live business news and market headlines 24 hours a day anywhere you have an Alexa device. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 960.
NASDAQ higher, but struggling to find direction. S&P a little changed, up 4 right now, up by about 0.1%. The Dow up 42, also up 0.1%. NASDAQ doing a little bit better, up 35, up 0.2%. NASDAQ 100 index down less than 0.1%. Russell 2000 outperforming, up now by about 1.4%. Traders are waiting through a deluge of corporate results for clues on whether the market will be able to extend this year's record-breaking advance. 10-year yield 4.24%, the 2-year 4.48%. Gold up $11 the ounce to $24.07, a gain of 0.5%. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 1.3%, 77.37 a barrel. The next Fed announcement comes July 31st. Many investors are looking ahead, though, to the September meeting. Sophia Grossos is economist and strategist at .72 Asset Management.
You can sort of discuss the fact that inflation has probably come down a little bit faster in the last couple of months than was expected. The Fed doesn't need to be in a rush, and it's a very consensus-based institution, as you know. So perhaps it's this meeting where the Fed gets its ducks in a row and unveils its strategy for reducing the amount of monetary restraint.
Sophia Grossos of .72 Asset Management. United Parcel Service shares are now plunging by 13%. Years after the parcel giant reported a profit well short of Wall Street's estimates. Again, UPS down 13%, FedEx down now by 2%. Big event at close of trading, earnings reports coming up from Tesla and Alphabet. Complete coverage on Bloomberg. Tesla right now down 1.1%, Alphabet up 0.7%. Recapping S&P now holding on to a 5-point gain. I'm Charlie Pelletier. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thanks so much, Charlie, for that update. Do appreciate it. Carol, how many times do you think you've heard that AI is going to make our lives easier?
What, in the last 60 seconds?
Yeah, right? It's going to do the busy work for us so we can get to the stuff that really matters.
Right.
Even I was actually typing this in Google Docs and like the automation was trying to fill it in. And I'm like, that's kind of what I'm actually trying to say. So it's a little impressive.
I like it when it finishes your sentences, or my sentences.
Okay, so there's this new study out from the freelancing platform Upwork that actually found that full-time employees say that AI has added to their workload.
Wait,
and that
what?
it's even contributing to burnout.
Wait, added to your workload.
Yeah, it's not making things easier.
All right, so what's going on? Kelly Monahan is managing director of the Upwork Research Institute. They focus on the future of work, which includes a lot of conversations, I'm assuming, about AI. She joins us from Chicago. Kelly, what the heck is going on? I thought this was supposed to make our life easier, free us up to do the things that really matter.
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing right now is a classic productivity paradox, where we've seen many times before with other technologies. You still understand 96% of global leaders are saying generative AI should be making the workforce more productive. But the reality is 77% said it's actually adding to the workload, and I think maybe even more alarming, 44% said they don't even know how to get these productivity gains, and that's resulting in 1 in 3 employees looking to exit their organization because they're feeling so overwhelmed by their job today.
Wow. So what's going on here? Like, where is the failure happening?
Yeah, great question. So I think there's a couple things going on. One, this is still a very new technology, and we are still in that learning phase. I think the mindset shift that needs to take place is leaders are looking for this to drive efficiency. And that's how they're measuring it, and that's where they're putting the pressure in their workforce. But the reality is there's so much unknowns, and this is a frontier. And so what really needs to be taking place is employees thinking of this through an R&D lens. What do I need to be learning? How do I drive innovation? How do I rethink what I'm doing? But instead, what they're feeling is that leaders are asking them to do more of the same, but faster and cheaper. And that right now is just a big disconnect because that's not where we are from a technology perspective.
I want to understand, though, exactly what you guys look
Oh,
into
no, you
in
don't.
terms
You're not
of
gonna fall.
and
Oh, no, you
how,
don't.
what were employees doing with AI as they try to figure out how it can either help or is just adding to their workload? Like, what did you exactly look into, the research study, or was it just a case of questioning, employees? Because I'm curious about who these workers are and how they were using AI.
Not great.
Yeah, so our study is based on knowledge workers. This was a global study, so we have representation in the U.S., Australia, Canada, and Europe. And so what we really focused on were those workers who are already using computer technologies to do their job. And so they had to have some level of exposure to even understanding AI. And what we found was what they're actually spending a lot of their time on right now is auditing the AI content that's coming out. They're then having to train the AI content because a lot of these are large language models that need to be fine-tuned and trained. And the real disconnect that we're seeing is the majority of these individuals are self-teaching themselves. There is no formal structure within an organization that's helping them upskill and actually learn how to do these things, which is why I think there's so much friction today.
Is there any sort of parallel that we can draw in recent history where we've seen a technology that, in your view, actually will be has been this disruptive and companies have had to upskill their workforce?
Yeah, so we've seen this, I think, in a few different times. And now AI has been around since the 1950s, and I know it's gone through periods of winters where it's been overhyped, and now we're in a period, summer period, where there's a lot of investment and there's a lot of hype of what this can cause. And I think this is a good thing. But the reality is all technologies before it have gone through this. A lot of people compare this to internet computing. So when businesses were mostly done on site and then everyone had to quickly become a digital, some version of e-commerce business in order to reach customers. I think over time we're going to see that being a pretty good comparison and fundamental shift. We're pretty soon you're going to hear the conversation around all businesses have to be AI powered to some degree. We've seen that with cloud computing. I think the problem is right now this is just happening so fast and we're not giving people enough time and enough runway to really make this pivot and change, and we're expecting too much too soon.
Why do you think it's important that we have this conversation right now?
I think right now there's so much pressure of business leaders. I mean, they're managing such great macroeconomic concerns, whether it's rising inflation, whether it's global turbulence. And I think right now the workforce is looking for something to grasp onto to help make their work lives easier. They've been through a lot as we think about coming out of the pandemic. And what my concern is, and why I think this conversation is so important, is this is a human plus machine conversation. There's so much headlines about just generative AI, how it's going to save the day. But in reality, humans are going to help save the day. And we really need a new model of leadership and talent and work mix in order to get this right. And I think we're at a critical cross point that if we have too much technology investment without enough human development investment, we may be leaving people behind.
So I want to get to some takeaways here before we let you go. Takeaways for knowledge workers who are out there dealing with this brave new world. People like us who are trying to understand and incorporate AI into our lives. What should we be doing?
Yeah, there's two things that I think are critical that our research found, that where people were using AI and it wasn't burning them out and they felt more productive. The very first thing is seeking outside help. I mean, this is, to your point, a brave new world, and there's other people who are much further ahead of this. We've seen this in the freelancer community. They are much more likely to be adopting AI, incorporating it into their workflows, and their livelihood depends on staying on top of the skills. And so this is a great community to go after to really seek that outside help, to both educate and understand how you can be incorporating AI. And then the second thing, and this is a little bit more qualitative, like a business leader perspective, is how we actually begin to measure productivity. I worry if we're purely looking at efficiency, hours worked, output, we're missing the big conversation that we should be having. Instead, when we saw in our research, people want to be measured against creativity, innovation, how they're adapting to change, their contributions to their company strategy, and that's the conversation I want to see Gen AI play in.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I do wonder, I I thought what was interesting also that 1 in 3 full-time employees saying they will likely quit their job in the next 6 months because of the strain that they are feeling from rising productivity demand. And I don't know what that says maybe more strongly or more significantally about kind of the job market, the economic outlook right now. If we don't get this right, then what? Because I just do wonder if it's just, I mean, this is the, typical strain. I feel like when we're starting to embrace the internet, right, and figure that out, that there's always this disconnect as we find our way through some, advancements in technology. As you say, AI is not a new thing, but this is certainly a different level. Is this just kind of a normal transition period?
Yeah, I think, history tends to repeat itself, and we've seen this before. I think what's probably
Acercándote a un cruce de ferrocarril.
Change, and I think leaders don't want to be left behind. If we go back to cloud computing, there were early adopters, and I think people were able to get ahead and find efficiencies and win in their industry. And I think there's a sense of urgency today because this is such a fast-moving technology. And again, it is still a fairly strong labor market. People want to work for some of the best companies who are leading edge, and so I do think there's this urgency to win this AI race. We are patient, and I think people are feeling it, and that's why the call here is slow down, bring in outside help, and really think about what's the business problem and how are you driving creativity and innovation and not just efficiency here.
Hey Kelly, Upwork, it's a publicly traded company. How does this change the way that you guys are doing business at Upwork?
Yeah, so I mean, AI, we are focused on AI, making our platform and product experience even better for our freelancers and our clients who are coming into search. Really just having a much more intelligent experience. From a freelancer perspective, we continue to see this being our fastest growing category on our platform. Freelancers who are using AI are getting higher value work, they're earning more than their peers. And so I think this has been a real game changer for the freelancer community.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Hey, listen, thank you so much. Certainly something to think about. We just heard from Emily saying, talking with Mark Zuckerberg about what they are doing, certainly with AI. So this is kind of our world, continues to be. Kelly Monahan, she's Managing Director at Upwork Research Institute, joining us from Chicago on this Tuesday.
Okay, stock's in the green, but nothing to write home about. The Dow up 0.1%, the S&P 500 up fractionally,
It looks like you're going to get big tech earnings or something.
Yeah, we're just sitting back waiting for Alphabet and Tesla. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come.
Just those companies.
No, but they're big ones, right, in terms of market sentiment.
TI. Tesla, Capital One, Visa, Alphabet.
Think about Alphabet or something is you think about what they get and what they show in terms of advertising revenue, and so what you start to extrapolate that out for the metas of this world and everyone who plays in the advertising space, but also what they have to say about AI and the uptick in AI demand will be really important.
Okay, we're gonna hit that in just a few minutes. First up, though, check on the latest world and national news. Big Amy Morris from the Bloomberg County on 1 News in Washington D.C. Hey, Amy.
Hi, Tim. Vice President Kamala Harris launched her presidential campaign in earnest with a rally in Milwaukee, where she said her role as a prosecutor and attorney general can help her win in November.
Predators who abuse women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own game. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Democrats are officially endorsing Harris for president. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries making that announcement today. Senator Schumer.
We've seen the Democratic Party swiftly coalesce behind Vice President Kamala Harris.
The two leaders praising President Biden's selfless decision to exit the race. A new Reuters Ipsos poll shows Vice President Harris leading Donald Trump 44 to 42% in the race for the White House. That difference is within the 3% margin of error, indicating a very tight race. Former President Trump pledging to take part in at least one presidential debate with Democratic presumptive nominee Harris on a campaign call. He would